We'll go ahead and call this regular City Commission meeting of August 13th, 2018 to order. Before I ask for an approval of the agenda, I want to reiterate that we have two opportunities for the public to speak during every meeting. Our first opportunity is under public announcements. These are 2-minute, non-controversial. You got a garage sale you want to tell people about, a lost dog, something like that. You have a longer opportunity for public comment at the end of the meeting, and then each resident can have 5 minutes to speak. And with that, I will ask for an approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hersom, a second from Commissioner Martin. Any questions or comments about the agenda? Any questions or comments about the agenda from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Stand for the invocation. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. And we'd like to welcome Pastor Burris from the Newberry United Methodist Church with us here this evening.
Thank you for having me. Please join me in prayer. Oh, gracious God, as we've gathered to do the work of the city of Newberry, we pray for your spirit in this room, for your spirit to guide the commissioners and the members of this community. May we have grace and clarity in our speech. Help each one of us to listen intently. And we pray, Lord, that all will have the best interest of this city at heart, and that this room will be filled with compassion and care for one another. Lord, we ask that as we come together, always guide our decisions as well as our conversation. We pray this in your precious name. Amen. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Burris. Okay, we have presentations, and I guess we should just go ahead and admit, folks, that most of you here tonight are not here for the business in front of us, but we still need to take care of the business in front of us, so if everybody could remain civil and quiet while we take care of that, we'll get as quickly as we can to public comment. And with that, Dallas, I believe you're going to lead us. No, not Dallas. Mike?
It is going to be Mike, just like we planned. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of our favorite times of our commission meetings is to share an employee spotlight. As you know, we just try to make sure that we introduce our very fine staff to our elected body and to the community. And tonight we're going to present Tracy, who's in the back of the room. If you maybe just wave your hand. Tracy's going to get to know everybody in Newberry on tonight's meeting. Tracy is recently with us. She's new to us. She's 13 years of customer service experience, but she's been with the city now 3 or 4 months. Is that correct? And, of course, she graduated from Newberry High School, like everybody else that works for the city of Newberry.
It's a prerequisite.
So she began with the city in April. She serves as a customer service rep, already making a big impact. She has great ideas. She has great customer care qualities, and so we get lots of positive feedback. So Tracy is our first person that customers see when they walk in, and we want everybody to feel comfortable when they come to City Hall for utility billing. So she helps people set up their accounts when they move to the city, things like that. And as always in customer service, we're trying to make everybody's transition in Newberry as effortless as possible. So Tracy's goals are to exceed customers' expectations every time that she meets with one face-to-face and provide excellent customer service that Newberry is known for. So Tracy, welcome to Newberry. We're really glad to have you on staff for the last few months, and we expect great things for you moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Like I say, it is awesome to come into City Hall, and she's always got a smile for you. Nice, warm, welcoming environment. With that, I think we have Mayor Conrad is going to give us our FMPA monthly liaison report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Manager. It's an honor to be in front of you once again. And I was going to give you a wrap-up of the annual conference that we went to. Mr. Manager, Dallas Lee, your CFO, and myself attended. and it was a very informative conference. When I got back, I wrote my report to you. One of the big things that I wanted to stress with you, and you've kind of already got ahead of me on this, is that we're talking about the advent of solar, and not only just solar, but conservation. The fact that our load is, in most cities, going down because people are either getting rooftop solar or conserving energy. And the impact of these little LED light bulbs has been huge on the electric industry. The old incandescent light bulbs that used to burn 60 watts to give you kind of a yellow glow, then they were replaced by the CFLs, which only burned about 30 watts and gave you kind of an intermittent glow that took a while to warm up. Now being replaced by these LEDs that only burn about 10 watts and give you a beautiful, bright, clear white light that's not affected by temperature. And people are rapidly converting to those. So as we did our load forecast in FMPA, we see most loads either flat or going down, except for Newberry. The average increase in load this last year was 1%. Newberry increased 2%. Well, we did lose some due to efficiency and a little bit of solar, which has not been going over real big in Newberry. We gained a lot with new construction. So as Mayor Marlowe has pointed out before, our growth is one of the fastest in the state per capita at even over 10% in recent years. So it's a good thing. It's also something that takes a lot of staying out in front of. And one of the ways I recommended to stay out in front of this kind of growth is to increase the customer charge, which had been $7.50 on our electric bills for many, many years, and it's one of the lowest in the state. And I think during the budget process, you already have taken steps to do that. And my recommendation was, some of the electric utilities are charging, I think, well, you're on Central Florida Electric. I think they charge $32 customer charge. A lot of you commissioners are on Central
awful.
Florida.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's awful. I wish all the time I was on Newberry Electric.
Me too.
But anyway, that's the movement of the future, and it does capture a fixed charge from everybody, whether you use solar or not, and it offsets our fixed costs, which are the major part of our bill anyway. So you all are already ahead of me on that, and I hope you will continue to use small increments to increase that customer charge till it gets a little closer to $20, but maybe $1 or $2 a year. Second item I wanted to talk about, and I've passed out our monthly bill because I think it's important that once in a while you all look at the monthly electric bill. It is the biggest bill we pay in the city by a long shot, and it is our biggest opportunity to save a little bit because if you can save 1% of this bill, you'll see it'd be a pretty big number. But if you open up your electric bill and you look in the column to the far right, all the way down to the bottom, the number in the box is this month's bill, $285,755. That's over $250,000, and it amounts to, at the end of the year, over $3 million a year that we write in checks to FMPA. By far our largest expense, and almost that $3 million almost equals the rest of the budget, the rest of the discretionary budget combined. So it's something I think it's important for you all to look at periodically. And if you go back up down that up the right column under current billing, and I want you to look at two items. The second line on there is demand charge, $158,567. And then the last one above the line is energy charge, $98,376. So the energy charge is for the energy we use throughout the month, 743 hours in the month. And all of those hours, all the energy we use is $98,000. But then 1 hour in the month, the peak hour, cost us $158,000 for 1 hour of electricity. So you can see the importance of demand. And there's a good reason for that in the electric business. It's pretty cheap to keep crunching out kilowatts hour after hour from your base load machines. But then at that peak hour when you need all hands on deck and you got little diesel units cranking up and some of these old dinosaurs coming online, just to give you that last kilowatt you need, it's very expensive energy. And if you can come off of that peak a little bit, you can save a lot of money. I'd like you to flip to the second page. The second to the last line shows us our average cost per megawatt hour for this month, which was July, $79.12 per megawatt hour. That's about average for us, but if you know, at the end of the month, we have a rate call workshop with FMPA, and all 13 cities that participate with us in this All Requirements project get together and we make the rate. Everybody doesn't pay the same rate. While we paid $79.12, Jacksonville Peach paid $68.88 a kilowatt hour. The Keys paid $66.35 a kilowatt hour, much less than us. There's a $17 a megawatt hour spread between the highest and the lowest, and that's something that your manager and I have focused on intensely over the past 4 years, with some amount of success. The rate modeling is not a science, it's an art, and everybody does it different. It is a very complicated formula, and Mike and I, with 10 years, 20 years combined experience looking at this rate model, are still learning things all the time about it and finding out that it is not very favorable to Newberry. There are winners and losers here, and we're getting the short end of the stick. So last year, we pushed forward a project through FMPA. We fought tooth and nail to get a modification made to the rate model where we took one of the cost centers, variable O&M, that was being looked at as a fixed cost. We got it moved over to the variable side and saved us a couple of percentage points on per megawatt hour, which, as I said before, when you got a $300 million bill, if you can save a percentage, that's $30,000. So that was worth a little bit extra money in the budget. In October, we've got a new rate adjustment going into effect that will, it's kind of a crazy thing. It was a whole bunch of compromises made by the board because everybody was going different directions, but it amounts to everybody puts a little money in the kitty, and at the end of the month, whoever's got the worst load factor gets some of that money out of the kitty. It's not very much, and it will. We did some computer modeling of it, and it looks like City of Newberry might save a fraction of a percent, not very much. Some other cities will do a lot better than us, that we're doing a lot worse than us with the load factor thing. But again, you know, if you can save 0.5%, that's $15,000 that y'all could put to some other good use in the city or reduce the rate to the ratepayer. There are a number of other things discussed at the conference. One of which I want to bring to your attention is the small cell communications systems. They are pieces of equipment that are owned by the telephone company that they have pushed through the federal legislature permission to put them on any telephone pole that belongs to anybody at no charge. So they can come and put them on our poles. Some of them are as big as a refrigerator, and use our poles for free unless we can stop this legislation. It's passed through the feds, and it's working its way through the state. And it's heavily funded and lobbied for by AT&T. And so we're David versus Goliath in this battle. But those of you who advocate for the city in Tallahassee and in Washington, this is probably number one on your list, is things that we need to work against.
And just before you move on with that point, Bill, because we talked about this briefly before, but you know, like you said, some of these things are as big as a refrigerator, and there's no requirement for them to talk to us about load factor, any of those kinds of things. So you have a hurricane come through, and all of these contraptions are on your poles. Well, we're responsible for putting the poles back up, and we didn't have any say in where these things went. So it is a big issue, and anytime you get a chance to lobby anybody, send off an email, let them know we're against these things. I just happened to be staring at that side of the room, just where my eyes fell naturally. What is the name? It's small cell
communications.
They're pitching 5G, which doesn't actually exist yet, but that's how they're getting the congressmen on board, selling them that it's going to be this rapid rate, and they have to have it. And it's a concept that may exist sometime in the future, but doesn't actually exist right now.
Yeah.
Is that just for internet?
It's for internet,
Cell
phone
phones.
service, cellular devices.
Yeah. And even though it's not your equipment, somebody knocks down your pole with somebody else's equipment on it, and everybody's cell phone is out, guess who's going to get the phone calls about, how fast can you get that pole back up?
Well,
So,
And just, I think, to me, the biggest concern for liability is that a cellular service provider puts heavy equipment on any of our infrastructure. It doesn't have to be our poles. It could be one of our street lights. Wind blows it down, it hits a car, damages the car, or injures someone in the car. It's our liability.
and they don't
It's
have
our
to
li-
get wind load
and they don't-
engineering on them.
And they don't have to get wind load
slap 'em up there.
engineering, and they do have to get permission, which is kind of like, we're going to get on that pole there. We just wanted to give you notice that we will be putting
Yeah.
our equipment on the pole. That's the notice that they're required. So you're right, it's very important legislation.
And lastly, I got elected chairman of the board again. This is my 6th term. It'll be my last term because they have a 6-term limit. I think I'm the first one that's ever served 6 terms, but
Can we lobby to have that rule changed?
so if y'all want me to stay on another year, I'll be glad to serve that last year as the chairman, and hope we can continue to do you some good.
Do we need to vote on that now, or do we need to put you on the agenda?
I think the way the contract
Just
is
a head
written
nod.
is unless you vote me out,
All
I
right.
stay on. So,
Yep.
so I'm here to answer any questions you
All
might
right.
have.
Commissioner Glanzer?
When we get that upgraded metering system installed in Newberry that Jamie's working on, will that help reduce the peak usage, the peak hours?
It could, and that's, again, up to you. If you want to give your customers a time of use rate where they can, and it would be something like, we'll sell you electricity for $0.05 a kilowatt hour for all the hours in the month except one, and then it's going to be $25 a kilowatt hour. And if people will accept that from you, then you can make some money.
And that's individually, the whole city doesn't have to do that. If our
No.
own usage is just for us, then it gets reduced, or is it the whole city?
Well, I mean, you got to get the individuals to come off the
Yeah.
peak. You can't go behind the meter and
It's not
turn
just
off
one
their air
person.
conditioners and that kind of stuff. But, your biggest customer in the city is the school board. 3 big campuses. If you could get them to come off the peak, and it would be pretty easy, because the peak, hot months is between 4 and 6 in the afternoon, and the cold months is between 7 and 8 in the morning. All those buildings are usually empty at those times, so it would be easy for them to back down their temperatures and work with us, and I think we could make some good advances, just if we could get the school board and some of our big commercial customers to do it.
Any other questions from the board?
Okay,
Bill,
very
thank you
much.
for your work. You're doing a great job for us. We appreciate it. All right. And now we will have citizen Joy Glanzer step down and tell us a little bit about Gloria Walker, who's a candidate for the 8th Judicial Circuit Court Judge.
Thank you so much. I'm here tonight as a citizen to stand for Gloria Walker. I'm going to stand in for her. She's a candidate for judge in the 8th Judicial Circuit Court. There was a campaign event scheduled for tomorrow, which her host mistakenly sent out invitations for tonight, so Gloria could not be in 2 places at once. I gladly volunteered to speak on her behalf. I did not know Gloria prior to this campaign. She came to my office one day to introduce herself, and by the time she left, I was asking where to sign up to volunteer to get her elected. I've never been particularly interested in judgeship races, but this one is different. I was deeply inspired not only by her life story, but her intense passion to treat people with dignity and respect. Her common sense approach will guide her in being firm but decisive with a tight grasp on the Constitution and rule of law. She worked her way through college and is the only candidate who attended and graduated twice from UF with honors. She has the heart of a public servant. She started 22 years ago as a guardian ad litem, representing abused, neglected, and abandoned children. Today, she is the managing attorney of 8 advocates, some with 40 years experience, and she's the director of litigation of 17 counties. She also teaches pretrial skills at the UF Law School and is an adjunct professor. Gloria's life experiences prepared her to be a judge. She thoroughly understands the judicial system procedurally and analytically, and I hope you will seriously consider voting for Gloria on August 28th. And also, if you'd like to talk with her and ask her questions personally, she'll be at a meet and greet across the street at my office on Wednesday, this Wednesday from 5 to 7 p.m. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is she in relation to Scott Walker?
Sister.
Sister?
We always joke about that every time we see each other, though.
Our next agenda item is a certificate of completion for Commissioner Hersom for completing the Institute for Elected Municipal Officials. This is a class that we offer to all newly elected officials. It really gives them the 101, and it's a great help to us when we get into this role. It lets us know who's out there. It lets us understand the ordinances and understand the processes and what we do, and it's just kind of a base level class. There's a second class after this one that we also encourage everyone to go to. So, Commissioner Hersom, if you would meet me down here at the podium so I can present this to you so Miss Amy can get a picture of us. It's a weekend away from the wife, so we appreciate the baby. Nope, she's coming. We'll pause the handshake in a second. You're fine. There we go. All right. Good job, sir. Thanks, sir. Well done. Okay, it's now time for public announcements. Remember, these are the 2-minute non-controversial. You want to tell us about something going on with the library, the Lions Club, Fall Festival upcoming. Come on up. Don't forget to introduce yourself.
My name is Naeem Rashad. I am a citizen of Newberry. I'm actually here to announce, you said garage sales are allowed, right?
That's right.
Awesome. So since we're a packed house tonight, I want to take advantage and promote our garage sale at Oakview Village. It's right in front of the middle school, Oakview Middle School. It's a new subdivision that's been built. We are having a community garage sale this weekend, August 18th and 19th, between 8 a.m. till about 1 p.m. We got like about, I want to say about 7 residents so far, if I'm not mistaken, about 8 that are participating in this garage sale. So it is going to be a nice little area that you can walk around, look at stuff, you know, what they say, one man's junk is another man's treasure. So please feel free to come by. I'll have refreshments, water. I'm not selling any kind of...
No lemonade stands?
I don't want to get arrested for illegally selling lemonade. So, yeah. So come see us this weekend. It'll be Saturday and Sunday between 8 a.m. and around 12 p.m. at Oakview Village, right in front of the middle school. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Yes, ma'am.
Peggy Loy, Newbury Main Street, Firehouse Gallery. Just to let everybody know, we're changing our exhibit next week. It's our 3-month cycle. And so on the 24th, which is next Friday, there will be a meet and greet with the artists and refreshments. We're also having some very special music next Friday. It's going to be a secret because it's special.
Are you, Miss Peggy, are you guys bringing any more authors to read stories?
We'd like to, because that was very successful.
It was,
We were,
yeah.
we were really delighted how well the community turned out for that.
Okay. All right. Next Friday, the 24th, meet and greet, open house. Any other public announcements? Any fall festivals happening pretty soon? We'll mount that next time. Okay, don't push. Okay. Hearing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Glanzer. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed unanimously. We'll move on to public hearings and ordinances. And this time Dallas will lead us through our third quarterly budget review.
Unless the city manager wants to take this one as well. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners. As you know, at the end of every quarter, staff comes before you and gives you an update on where we are in our budget and offers a budget amendment if one is needed. So as of June 30th, we are 75% of the way through our budget cycle. We're nearing the end of the year. We are on track across all funds to meet our budget. In our revenues, we are actually over collecting in a variety of different revenues. Our ad valorem taxes are up, as well as our building permits and some other ancillary revenues, grants, those things. The graph before you shows you where your revenues come so far for the first 3 quarters of the year. Your expenses are also on track. We're actually below the 75% mark for the year. So that's good. We're spending a little less money than we anticipated. As you can see, as always, the city is spending the majority of its funds on public safety, which includes your law enforcement contract, building department, codes enforcement, fire department. And then the second largest is going to be your general government, which are all the administrative functions of the government, including the planning department, finance, the commission, city attorney, those sorts of things. This is the same information presented to you in the graphs earlier, just in numerical form. As you can see, we're 88% collected in revenues, at 75% through the year. So like I said, we are doing really well there. And again, in your expenses, you're at 66% spent, 75% through the year, so you're actually underspent in a variety of different areas. Some of those have to do with some capital projects that are happening. We just haven't issued final payment, but there are a couple of different areas that are spending under anticipated. Of course, we take all this into account when designing the next fiscal year's budget. Your smaller funds, your capital improvement fund, debt service funds, and Champions Park Fund are also all performing as anticipated. There hasn't been a lot of activity in most of those funds year to date, but they are all on track. One of the things you may notice is in your debt service fund, there was an error in our last budget adjustment, which is being corrected in this one, but that's for that payment of the fire station debt, paying that off. Diamond Sports Park, in this quarter, Diamond Sports Park ceased operations. Sorry, there's a fly. It ceased operations. At the end of its operations, we have about $20,000 surplus revenue over expenses for the year. There are some more bills still coming in that we're paying, so we may see that amount lessen, but we anticipate at the end of the year, once that's fully closed out, we'll transfer any of the cash balances from Diamond Sports Park back to the general fund as the agreement with the school board indicated. Your Wild Spaces Fund, we're actually over collecting in Wild Spaces as well. The state's estimates were low, so we are collecting more, and our budget for next year also has additional revenues anticipated based on these collections. Whoa. In your electric department, as we mentioned in the budget workshop a week or so ago, we currently are operating at a deficit in the electric department. Operating revenues to operating expenses are about $5,000 to the surplus, but once you include some of our rate-funded capital, we're about $170,000 to the not-so-good. However, we'll fund that through depreciation. Some of those projects can be depreciation funded, and as the commission head nodded towards the workshop, we will have a rate increase to shore that up in next year. Your water wastewater funds are actually performing better than anticipated. Most of that comes from unrealized expenses. We've had some shortages in staffing this year, so we're seeing some surplus monies in our expense accounts from that personnel. But we are right on track in our sales in both water and wastewater. As you know, most of our sales come at the very last quarter because that's when the water consumption is the highest. It's in the summer, so it always lags a little bit behind. But all in all, we are on track. One of the points to note is our development fees, which are directly tied to the development within the city, are very good. We've collected over 100% of what we budgeted for so far this year. As the commission knows, we use those fees to pay debt service and to expand the infrastructure of the water and wastewater system. Most recently, the commission used it to build the water pipe down State Road 26 out to the Destiny property. And we'll be continuing to collect those funds and bank any that we don't use for future capital projects. In your long-term debt, which is a very easy to read slide here, we've actually reduced long-term debt so far this year by 16.6%, which is good. That mostly has to do with your fire station payoff, but you also have about $150,000 a year in other debt service payments in your water wastewater system. And at current, water and wastewater SRF loans are the only debt the city has. In your budget amendment, we are proposing a rather large amendment due to those increases in revenues. We're advancing the CIP in a couple of areas. The commission also allowed us to use contingency funds in a previous budget amendment for some work at Country Way. We're replenishing the contingency fund back to the $50,000, so we guarantee ourselves that much in our reserves. In addition, we, in this budget amendment, are proposing an additional $48,000 to go into reserves. We don't propose any adjustments in your enterprise or internal service funds. And then there is a small adjustment in your debt service and capital improvement funds to adjust the clerical error, which I spoke about earlier. The commission have any questions?
Questions from the commission? Commissioner Martin?
No, not necessarily a question, but just appreciate you staying on top of it. Well done.
Commissioner Coleman?
Ditto to that. I got a question about, I know this is for next year's budget, but are we looking at, are we still looking at maybe increasing still the water on going up on the water? It's actually directed to Mike on that.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, at our last workshop, staff proposed, I believe it was a 3% increase in our water revenues. We showed the phenomenon that our water sales were down 9%, even though I think our customers are up 6%. But apparently conservation and God blessing us with plenty of rainfall really works, and so our sales are down 9%.
Well, I'm just, our next workshop, I think, and I just want to put this out there in front of everybody else on the dais here, is maybe looking at this year, I don't know if it was $38,000, maybe we should not fund or let's take away from take it out of that and not increase the water amount. I think that's a good idea for this year instead of actually going up. But I'm not sure if it's $38,000 or not. That was the number that was stuck in my head at the
I
time
think it
of
was
the
38,
workshop.
but it was broke over 2 or 3.
And it was a 38-cent increase in wastewater, but I don't remember the actual.
Mike, will you
Right.
put that in your notes to bring back
Well,
up
we'll
at the
just,
next
yeah,
budget
so we can
workshop?
just look at that.
Absolutely.
We'll revisit that question.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the dais? Good job. Okay, any questions from the audience?
Put the resolution on
I
the
have one
floor.
question before we do that.
Sure.
If you would. Can you tell us what are some of the CIP projects that are advanced?
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. The CIP specifically, well, one of them is the charter review, which isn't CIP, but the charter review. Design of a parking lot, replacing a large format scanner, the change order that the commission just approved on consent agenda is in this, pitching mounds for a rec, a survey for our cemetery, some work on our ag tech project, and then some work on our fairgrounds as well. And then I believe there's a trailer.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Attorney, would you please read that resolution?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution 2018-27, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, adopting amendments to the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget and providing for severability, conflicts, and effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass resolution number 2018-27 as read by title only.
Do I have that motion? Motion by Commissioner Farnsworth,
Second.
second from Commissioner Martin. Any final questions, comments from the dais? Any questions or comments about the motion on the floor from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you, Dallas.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item. And folks, I think we've got channel 97 fixed and the volume is back on. No, we're still working on that issue. You can always tune in on YouTube and watch. We have good audio there, and we'll continue to work on channel 97. Brian, if you'll join us for our first agenda item, Resolution 2018-24, establishing fees for planning and development applications.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you remember last month, staff brought forward a concept for direction from the Commission on whether or not to amend certain fees for development in situations where you have an applicant that already has an existing approved development of some sort or special exception of some sort that would like to make a minor amendment to it. Currently, our resolution doesn't specify whether it's a minor amendment or a full-blown amendment or a brand-new application. And so the concept was, would the Commission like to entertain the idea of lowering those fees for minor amendments, less of a burden on the developer when they come back and want to make some fairly minor changes. Commission said that they did and asked staff to go back and come back with a recommendation for some changes. And so that's what we did. Staff went back and looked at the existing fee schedule, and we came back basically with two changed recommendations. The existing fees themselves would not necessarily change, but we would offer a fee reduction for minor amendments to two categories of development fees. One would be for actual developments, whether it's a planned development, mixed use, planned rural residential development, or planned residential development. Basically right now for those large scale developments, the application fee is $6,500. If they were going to make a minor amendment to those, then we would recommend the application fee go down to $3,500, slightly more than half. And then also for something like a special exception, currently a special exception application fee is $2,200. For minor amendments, staff would recommend half that to $1,100. And the way that that would work is that for the previously approved developments, to qualify as a minor change, you would have to basically not be proposing anything that would alter the mix of approved uses within those developments by more than 10%. So for instance, on a planned development, if there's going to be a mix of commercial, a mix of residential, if the proposed change doesn't ultimately result in anything more than a 10% increase in the residential and a decrease in commercial, or vice versa, or any mixture of that, then it would qualify as a minor amendment request and would qualify for the reduced fee. And again, this would only apply to the planned development, mixed-use developments, residential developments, and planned rural residential developments that we have right now. The second category would be for special exceptions, and basically to qualify as minor, the proposed change would essentially be a fairly minor change to what's in the existing special exception. When your special exception is approved, you have generally a site plan approved with it, and you also have a list of conditions that are established by the Commission or the Board of Adjustment during the approval process. And so it would be a minor change to those conditional uses, or a minor change to the conditions imposed by the Board of Adjustment at the time that it was approved. That one, because of the variability of everything that could possibly come into play, the proposal would be that they would be evaluated on a case-by-case basis by the Land Development Administrator, and if the LDR Administrator approved it, they'd qualify for the half cost rate. If the LDR Administrator didn't approve it, they'd have the choice of either going ahead and going with the full price, or they could make an appeal, which is another category that we have, would be heard by the Board of Adjustment, who would make the final decision. And with that, the other categories, we looked at the rest of the fee structure, and basically the other types of fees that we have the processes don't lend themselves to amendment either at all. They would need to be done from scratch, or even small minor amendments would usually result in essentially the full-blown process that you'd have to go through anyway, as if it was a brand new application.
Okay, Commissioner Barton is first with the hand up.
Brian, you feel like the proposals have kind of worked out any kind of abuse of minor changes, like we discussed before?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, like we had talked about before, I mean, one of the reasons that you still have fees associated with amendments is to prevent somebody from constantly coming back with a slew of small amendments. I'd like to think that this would balance between preventing somebody who needed an amendment to come forward and request it, but also encourage them not to come forward with constant minor amendments that don't really warrant the attention of the Board of Adjustment on a regular basis, coming back forward over and over again. Or they could lump them all together into one and come forward with one proposal.
Is that it? Commissioner Farnsworth and then Commissioner Glanzer.
Who makes the determination as to whether their request qualifies for the reduced rate?
Mr. Mayor, the first one, the established criteria would be we would look at the currently allowable uses in their development order, And if none of the allowable uses that were previously approved in the development order were changed by more than 10%, it would automatically qualify. And that staff would make that decision. Again, if the developer didn't agree with that evaluation, they would always have the option to go before the Board of Adjustment for an appeal.
So does any of this go before the Planning and Zoning Board?
Mr. Mayor, we don't anticipate that it would. Actually, we're trying to alleviate the number of trips in front of the Planning and Zoning Board or the Board of Adjustment if possible, if it's something of a relatively minor nature that doesn't necessarily warrant going to that level. We'd like to try to keep it at the staff level so that it doesn't come before you constantly.
Commissioner Glanzer?
Yes, will the reduced fees for the minor amendments still cover the staff time that you're going to spend with
Mr.
that?
Mayor, we think it would. I mean, one of the reasons there are a few other fee categories that we didn't really look at, and some of it is because the cost is really just barely covering the advertising cost as it is right now, and so they wouldn't lend themselves to the amendment. But the others, we believe, would still cover the cost of advertising as well as some staff time involved. Again, because they're minor, theoretically there should be less staff time involved.
Commissioner Martin?
Brian, what percentage of the kind of the workload that's somewhat in the pipeline do you think this is really going to affect?
Mr. Mayor, that could change on a day-to-day basis, but right now we do have one that's been put forward that we'd like to be able to offer this to if possible.
Okay.
But it really depends. We've got a number of plan developments that are approved and on the books, but that are not actually moving forward, and at some point they'll probably dust those off and want to come forward because the market has improved. And so it could be more. It could be more.
Any other questions from the dais? Any questions from the public? Hearing none, do we have a motion? I'm sorry, yes, read the resolution for me, please, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Attorney.
This is resolution number 2018-24, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending resolution number 2018-08, providing for the amendment of a schedule of fees and charges for matters pertaining to the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan and the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, providing severability, repealing all resolutions in conflict, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is passed resolution number 2018-24 upon its reading by title only.
Do I hear that motion?
Move to approve resolution 2018-24.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Glanzer.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Any final questions or comments?
Does the public ask for the public as well?
Any final questions or comments from the public on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
All right, I've drafted a letter that I would like the board's permission to send to the Alachua County Board of Commissioners. About a year ago or so, they made a change in their county manager, and they appointed the county attorney, I believe was her title at the time, as the interim manager. It's been about a year now, so they believe it's time to go ahead and find a permanent person for that, and Michelle Lieberman, the interim county manager, has applied for the job. I can tell you, and I hope that you guys would agree, that since they've made that change, it has been a brand new world in Newberry, negotiating and dealing with the county. She is a solutions-oriented manager. She comes to the negotiating table looking for a solution that benefits everybody. She's not looking for winners and losers. She wants us all to do well. We're all county residents. It's been a breath of fresh air. Since she's come on board, we have successfully renegotiated Loft. We have entered into the potential for the Youth in the Ag fairs and the IFAS extension to come to Newberry. There's just been all kinds of good things that have come from a willingness to engage in conversations. So the letter is in your backup. Mr. Attorney, do I need to read that to the public, or?
Certainly wouldn't hurt, Mr. Mayor.
I'll go ahead and do that quickly. So the letter says, "Dear Chair Pinkinson, the City of Newberry appreciates the opportunity to provide input into the Board of County Commissioners selection process for a permanent county manager. The City of Newberry requests that the BOCC strongly consider offering the position to interim county manager Michelle Lieberman. Ms. Lieberman has effectively managed our county government since becoming the interim county manager position in August 2017, advancing many important issues such as the local option fuel tax, implementation of the county fire assessment, and most recently the county fairgrounds. Our staff and elected officials noted significant improvement in our relationship with Alachua County. We believe Ms. Lieberman deserves much of the credit for this improvement. Staff report that she is a solution-oriented manager and seeks results from negotiations that benefit us all. We very much appreciate efforts by the BOCC and interim county manager Lieberman to develop a stronger working relationship, and we feel, as we hope you do, that these efforts have been successful." So that's the letter I'd like to submit. I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman. I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman and a second from Commissioner Hersom. Any questions or comments, any addendums to the letter? Commissioner Martin?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I fully support the letter as well. I told you before the meeting that I thought it was appropriate. I've already sent an email to the Board of County Commission. I've already got 2 acknowledgements back from commissioners thanking me for sending the letter. So hopefully this just helps support their effort and just moving on. They talked briefly about the costs associated with doing a county manager search, and this would kind of keep that cost off of the books for the county residents. So I didn't see necessarily any reason going through the process or spending the money on behalf of the county. So I hope they do take Ms. Lieberman.
Any other questions or comments from the board? I posted the other day an email that you can send directly to all 5 county commissioners. If you're so inclined, sending an email of support, we would appreciate that. Thank you. All-purpose manager here, gets bug control and everything. I intend to go and speak directly to the county commission at their public hearing tomorrow, where they will be talking about this, so I can express our appreciation for what she's done for the city of Newberry. Any questions or comments from the public on submitting this letter? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And we are on to comments. City manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a brief update. We're continuing to work to bring the county fairgrounds to Newberry. We've got a lot of different activities going on, but most recently today we were met with the cooperative extension agent, Dr. Sanders, to kind of get an idea for her needs. We've been working with county staff. We've been working with property owners and a consulting engineer that we have contracted with to help us develop some layouts. The county's on a fairly fast timeline, so we're hoping that maybe September, October, we'll be ready for boards to make final decisions. Also got a lot of activity going on in ag tech. We have very important meetings next week. I guess, we'll trying to get as many folks as we can in the room. Some of those, eventually something's going to shake loose, and we're going to get things cranked up very quickly. We continue to work on infrastructure funding, both at the state and federal level. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. City Attorney?
None, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. And Commissioner Coleman?
Mayor, is there an update on the 4-speed study on 232? Have we got anything back on that?
I believe we got that today, yes, recently. Do you have anything on that?
Mr. Mayor, I got the results in from the 4th and last speed study that we surveyed. Without getting into explicit detail about what the information shows, generally we see the 85th percentile at around 26 miles per hour, which is 1 mile per hour over the posted speed limit. We generally think that that means that additional speed control is not warranted. Normally you're looking at 7 to 10 miles per hour over the speed limit before you start looking at additional traffic control. That kind of confirms the previous 3 that have been conducted since the city installed stop signs on those intersections. I'll propose to forward an email to the commission showing them the results from the most recent 2. tomorrow. I was actually drafting that up before the meeting tonight, and then we'll respond to the applicant. And just as during our previous city commission discussion, we discussed a striping plan and kind of left it as, would staff go look at that? We have looked at that. We believe that it's a good opportunity for us to see if the striping and street side parking would further reduce speeds because of perceived closing down of the traffic lanes, get it down to about 18 feet wide. So we propose to move forward with it also because we've had many discussions on this dais about parking in residential neighborhoods, and our parking plan is kind of the prototype for what parking, formalized parking might look in neighborhoods. So staff sees that we could kill maybe 2 birds with 1 stone, move forward with a parking plan here, and then do a 6 or 12-month wait and see how it works out, see what the neighborhood kind of feedback they give us, positive, negative, and see what we think it does with traffic control, speed control.
I just want to say I know that this issue has grown, but I want to commend Commissioner Coleman. It was ultimately your idea to come up with stop signs that seem to have adequately addressed the situation, and it's been exhaustively studied at this point, so it was a good job thinking outside the box. Is that all your comments? Commissioner Herson?
Yeah, I've got a comment tonight. I know there are citizens that want the City Commission to remove Commissioner Coleman from his seat. However, the City Commission does not have the power to remove a fellow commissioner. That power lies with the voters at the ballot box. However, I feel the need to say something tonight because I feel my silence is condoning poor behavior. I don't approve of or support certain behaviors by Commissioner Coleman, both alleged and proven. And any one incident in and of itself is bad enough, but when presented as a whole, it appears to portray a pattern of behavior not reflective of a person chosen to represent our city. Commissioner Coleman, though, has worked hard for the betterment of our city. Unfortunately, that work is being overshadowed by recent allegations. To my knowledge, the city has not attempted to cover up any behaviors or actions, but rather has taken the appropriate response to each and every incident. Any allegations to the contrary are not true as I understand the facts. Nor has any commissioner conspired to cover up any issue. I certainly have not done that. Remember, due process is deserved by every party in a dispute. Leadership requires civility both from the leader and those who are being led, but most of all from our leaders. Civility does not equate to agreement, but should always carry with it respect for the process of government and those who participate in it. The headlines in the paper lately have only been negative, not touting the good and exciting progress we have in our city. I don't know what the resolution and final outcome of this situation is, but I know the negativity and hostility has been unfortunate for our city. We need to refocus on the good and positive things in Newberry.
Thank you. Commissioner Farnsworth. Yeah, that was for you, Commissioner Farnsworth.
Let me jump in for just a second.
Hey, go 1 second, Commissioner Farnsworth.
All right, we're going to have to talk about procedure for just a second.
I have a whole speech written up about
And-
that,
and
but you speak with much more authority.
Well,
than
I don't
do.
know about that, but I'm at least speak. There's the potential for folks to clap, yay, nay, whatever it is. If you've noticed how this meeting has been directed so far, all of the manager's comments, all of my comments have gone through the mayor. He's our chair, he runs our meeting, that's the way we do it, that's the process that we engender. For the most part, the city of Newberry has had a great deal of civility whenever we have issues we disagree on. And the principles of the First Amendment are such that we can agree to disagree, but not be disagreeable. And I think everybody on this dais would defend everybody's right to the principles of free speech and principles to disagree with an opinion I may render, opinion that the mayor may have, or any of the commissioners. But we're going to request that all of the commentary go through our mayor, refrain from clapping, refrain from commentary, give due respect when you're speaking, then we're going to give you the opportunity to speak without interruption, hopefully, and hopefully we can conduct the meeting in such a way that it's done with civility and respect that everybody is entitled to when you're speaking through our mayor. So that's just a little ground rules of where we're going or where we're at this evening. And if it's such that those ground rules are not adhered to, then what I'm going to ask is, I'm going to interrupt the speaker and ask that you speak through our mayor, and we run the meeting in this way. So that's my commentary, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Farnsworth?
Yeah, I was just wondering if we had any update on that fire hydrant that was ran over.
Does Commissioner Farnsworth have water at his house, Mr. Manager?
Mr.
He's
Mayor,
looking
I
at
think Jamie Jones, our utility director, has got the play-by-play.
Mayor, Commissioners, they're still working on the issue right now. Hopefully by the time this commentary is over tonight and you get home, you will have water.
And I won't have to boil my water, will I?
You will be in a precautionary boil water notice for 2 days until successful results come back of bacteriological samples.
All right, thank you, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Manager.
May I ask our utility director a question? Was there anything that you could have done to prevent this water outage, Mr. Utility Director?
I was not pulling the boat that ran over the fire hydrant.
Thank you.
Did he really just say a boat ran over the water? Okay. Is that it, Commissioner Farnsworth? Commissioner Martin?
I always appreciate the levity of these meetings, for sure. You know, I had a little bit more I was going to say, but I think Commissioner Hersom said it quite well. I think of Rick like a brother. I don't always have to approve of everything he does. I mean, he chews, and I don't approve of that, but I support him. I know that he's done a lot more good for this city than probably most of us actually sitting up here. And whether we agree or disagree here as a city, we can absolutely do it and not be disagreeable. I hate to see when things get disagreeable. I don't think it does anybody any good on either side of the argument. And we've got children in the room tonight. We have children who are in our community who are just starting school today. And it has come upon everybody in this room, including myself, to take that into their discussions, and we need to act like the adults that we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Martin. Mr. Glanzer?
Thank you. Back in July 25th, I got to stand in at the School Planning Advisory Committee for Tim. And I just briefly want to say that obviously we need a new elementary school in the area, and that was the main agenda item. The two locations are, the most popular ones are down on Parker Road and north on 241, north of Jonesville. So you'll be hearing more of that in the future, and I'm sure Tim will report that as it comes further. The other thing coming up is the 1/2 cent sales tax for the school board is really critical. So when that comes before you as a vote, I hope you'll consider supporting that. I'm not here to speak for or against any individual on the dais or any individual in the community, but I am speaking tonight in response to the many citizens who've called to ask my opinion of the current situation. I've listened to your concerns, your fears, your suggestions for healing, and responding to that is really the easy part. Our better angels and our mothers taught us how to treat each other, so that's not difficult to say that the golden rule is still a defining principle in our lives. I think we all agree on that. The difficult part is living up to that principle and believing that we can overcome the things that divide our city. We're not so different from other cities, but we can be. We can carry the flag for tolerance, and we can be a beacon for what is right, not what is wrong. I pledge to be here fully conscious of both sides and building bridges between those two sides. My respect for Commissioner Coleman has grown since I worked with him the past year and a half, as it has for all my fellow commissioners. You know, sitting up here, there exists a strong brotherhood. Well, now there's a little sisterhood. We hold deep respect for one another, knowing the gut-wrenching decisions we have to make as a board, and knowing we all have sleepless nights over those decisions at times. Going through this all together, yet separately because of the Sunshine Law, we can't even pick up the phone and talk to each other and chat about what is going on, which in a human sense is completely contrary to common sense. Yet our bond is strong, and I think that's why you don't hear us talking as loud as you'd like to hear us about situations. I can't speak for the rest of us, but that's just my opinion. But I will be loud without ceasing for your voice to be heard. I won't stop doing that. And I don't have visions of grandeur that my words tonight will make an impact, but I say them in solidarity for those who have felt any bias whatsoever, perceived or real. I hear you. And there's no line drawn, whether you're conservative or liberal. I really don't care. We're all of colors, of different colors, faiths, and orientation, and there's no us and them. There's just we, and that's a powerful two-letter word. The alleged behavior of one person does not define our city, and it's our collective duty to make sure the better things that we have going on and working towards make the headlines. We need to speak louder than the drama. Let our voice of unity drown out the small-minded prejudicial labels others might pin on us. That's not us by any stretch. Let this situation be our catalyst for awareness. Let's declare Newberry a no-tolerance zone for intolerance. So someday we'll look back and find that the purpose for what we went through was the event that got us to talk to one another and finding ways to educate, to tolerate. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Glanzer. Okay, well, you guys have covered a lot of things that I had noted down to say, but I would like to begin by saying, obviously lots of people are here tonight who would like to speak to the recent allegations of incivility from Commissioner Coleman, and it would be unfortunate if people who are upset at behavior that they believe is uncivil engaged in incivility themselves. And quite frankly, this board is not going to tolerate that. As the attorney said, our long-standing procedures of etiquette and decorum dictate that you address your comments to me. We do not allow back and forth debate during public comment. Questions will be noted, they'll be written down, they'll be researched, but they may not be answered during public comment. It's a comment, not a conversation. If any person cannot control themselves enough to adhere to these rules, that person will forfeit the rest of his or her time, and I will ask them to leave the chambers. Before I open the floor to public comment, I want to speak to one point in particular regarding the recent Gainesville Sun and social media discussions that have been happening. I don't have anything else to say about the most recent allegations. We've investigated it as far as we can with the information that we have with us. So I've said everything I have to say on that issue. I do want to address the unfair accusations that Newberry has been covering up anything. I take offense to that, as it is completely and totally unfounded. Every accusation, every allegation, every complaint, whether based completely on hearsay or captured on social media, every instance of interactions between Commissioner Coleman and any resident that failed to meet the criteria of representing the city professionally and respectfully has been properly documented and recorded. Some of those things have been recorded without Commissioner Coleman knowing that they were being recorded. It's all been listed. For every instance in which the city was able to find a shred of proof, some action within the limited range available to this board has been taken. Sensitivity training, classes in conflict resolution, ethics training, they've all been provided. Indeed, the only reason residents are aware of these allegations are because they've all been documented. So half of the issues that people may want to speak tonight occurred on social media for anyone to see. So do not mistake the fact that you may have just started paying attention to this issue with the idea that this issue has been conspiratorially hidden from you. I have made this point before, but it bears repeating tonight that the majority of the allegations against Commissioner Coleman were made and generally made publicly before the last election. And he has been elected and re-elected in a free and fair process each and every time, which means that the electorate either isn't paying attention or they have weighed the allegations and for their own reasons decided they aren't true or they aren't important. Maybe they believe that he is innocent until he's proven guilty. Maybe they believe that society has grown too sensitive or there is nothing of substance to the charges. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. In a democratic process, each of us has the right to make our own choices for our own reasons. I have made the choice to work with any person that my city sees fit to send to this dais. I have made the choice to publicly denounce Commissioner Coleman's interactions with residents. We've had some candid conversations over the years together. And I've made the choice that it's not my role as mayor to denounce him when there is no evidence. I've also made the choice it's not my place to judge who my residents send here. Residents send people to this dais for different reasons to work on different issues. It's also not my place to judge the people they choose not to send here. My job in this seat is pretty simple. It's to work with the members of this board, whoever they are, for you. So I take the charge of covering up very seriously. So before you accuse me or anyone on this dais of that, please know that I stand ready to defend not only my actions, but the actions of city employees as well. Now, everybody on this bench will sit here and listen to each and every comment that anyone would like to make. And we will take your comments and your concerns seriously, because for everyone on this dais, we do take any allegation that one of us has failed to represent you and this city properly as a grave charge. And if anyone here tonight presents new allegations, has evidence of wrongdoing, it too will be documented and investigated. And if criminal charges are filed and a conviction is handed down, then and only then is this board empowered to act. Now, we will begin public comment. Each resident has 5 minutes. When the green light turns yellow, you're down to 30 seconds. Remember to address your comments to me, and the floor is now open for public comment. Come on down. Don't forget to introduce yourself to us, ma'am.
I am Sue Ann Buddy, colorblind, so you might have to
We'll help you out.
let me know. First, I'd like to address to Lancer, but through you, that I am not, I don't know how you just put it, feeble-minded. I am educated with a mechanical engineering degree. So I understand that this is a brotherhood, and I respect it very much. Everyone has been decent. Everyone has been fair. However, the cycle before last, I was told by Ricky Coleman that I would have my teeth bashed in. I don't know him. His attorney will come after me. I don't know him. So I brought it to the attention of the city. I brought it to your attention. And I said he will get violent one day. And long and behold, you know, during the interview of the newspaper, he brought up referencing guns twice, one to a liberal saying that he was maybe too feminine and needs to go shooting, and then to Shelby Powell that someone will probably shoot him if he doesn't shut his mouth. So that's concerning. And as a growing city, such as Newberry, I would find that to be extremely disturbing. I don't understand why everyone has let that go. As a single mom, I am not going to be put in a position where I'm going to have my teeth kicked in by anybody. And I find it very upsetting that he would make fun of a large woman putting an anti-Trump poster up, and wondered if you own a mirror to see if perhaps maybe comments like that shouldn't be said. There's other comments about firecrackers, and Captain Morgan goes a long way. It's very unbecoming, and I don't believe that a city such as Fort Lauderdale, maybe even Jacksonville, would even tolerate this behavior. I'm only one person. I'm not going to be remembered. I am going to miss everything I do at the horse rescue, the 4-H, and whatnot. That I'm going to regret tremendously, and you have taken that away from me. And I don't think you have any regret.
Ma'am, would you direct your gaze at me, please?
I don't think he has any regret. it's disheartening knowing that he would come after a single woman with a child and threaten to kick my teeth in because he accused me of calling him racist when I did not. So with that being said, I find that most of you all are educated and have some sense about you. And it seems odd to me that you wouldn't take everything into consideration and say, you know what, Ricky, there's a problem here. In order for Newberry to grow, there's a good possibility you may need to step down. But perhaps he can't because his whole life is in Newberry. He's writing his life like an obituary. He's got his foot in this and this and this and this and this. How can one person beat that? You cannot. But like I said, I'm moving. I won't be remembered. And I hope that one day, if the opportunity comes up again, you might consider asking him to resign.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Chris McCluskey, and I come to you as a concerned citizen. I am here to speak on behalf of the public for decorum on our City Commission board. I've lived in Alachua County for over 30 years, and 12 of those here in Newberry. I've served in the Army for 4 years, and in the Army, we're all green. And we treat everybody the way that we would want to be treated. Public office requires decorum, the ability to speak to citizens in a manner that would fit speaking to a priest or a school principal. I see 5 commissioners on this board. Unfortunately, only 4 of them meet the qualities for this position. Nowhere is racism, bigotry, demeaning people, or threatening to kick people's teeth in fit into civility, decorum of a public office. I am well aware of what a telco company is able to pull as far as transcripts of calls and texts. So with that said, I'm here to ask for Rick to do the city a favor and resign from office, as he is clearly unfit for this position. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Take a deep breath.
I am. Because I'm here to apologize to Kevin Coleman, if you want to let him in.
Thank you.
I'm here to apologize to you guys, and Miss Suzanne. When she came to this town, she came to work for me. Worked for me for about a year. We had some serious differences of opinion, and I hate it that I see her take it out on Ricky. You know, so just to let you guys know, this started way before Ricky ever got to be a commission, when I terminated her. So I think he's done a good job for the city, as the rest of the guys here has, and Ms. Glanzer. And pretty much all you know, that I'm all for the city, for everything that we can do for the city, and to keep a good community growing. I mean, I'm about growth in Newberry, and as long as I'm here, I'm going to be supporting Ricky, and you guys too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other public comment?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Jason Levy, resident of Newberry. The comments I wanted to make is that I know from what has already been stated very eloquently by everyone here on the dais is that if things are looked into, that there is a practice or policy that has been violated by the city, it's looked into. But also as citizens, we can also report it to the Florida Department of Ethics, and they can also look into it if we wanted to make our own complaint. The concern that I come up with that is that if any one of you were working in private business or somewhere else, the odds of a complaint coming to this level or this stage would probably be very slim, because this is a public office. And with public office, people can get complained on very easily, and there's a lot of stuff that people don't see behind the scenes, as you very well stated, that gets looked into and gets done. And I'm sure if anybody did a public records request and asked for those documents, that they can be provided that. The concern also comes up is that, and like was also stated also by several commissioners, that, and if we disagree, then when elections come around, then we can make those choices. I don't have to agree with every one of you on the dais for things you say or do or act as, but I can also make my power of my vote and my choice to do as I see fit. I support our city commission and our mayor and our city manager and the city attorney and everyone in the city, because every time that we have had an issue or a concern, it's been dealt with pretty quickly and responsively. I just get concerned that people make comments and that it's difficult when a lot of them are made behind the keyboard, and instead of taking the time to come up here and be a public person to come up and talk about it. I may travel everywhere with a computer or some type of electronic device, but I won't fight behind the keyboard, and I'll be happy to voice my opinion when I see that it is fit or necessary. So thank you for the work that all of you are doing, and thank you for the comments that were made in order for this issue, and that I hope that it gets more dealt with here than it does on social media, because half of what's put out there is once it's done, the flag is flown, you can't take it back, and whether it's true or not, it's still out there. So again, thank you for the job that all of you do. I support all of you in the work you do, and to me, I'm still very honored and happy to be a citizen of Newberry. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other public comment? Don't be shy, you can make a line.
Ladies and gentlemen and citizens of Newberry, I'm here tonight because I'm really disappointed. Oh, Deborah Campbell.
Thank you.
I thought I'm young.
Look over here, Miss Debbie, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed in the Gainesville Sun for writing these articles, which say somebody in Gainesville, Joe Blow or whatever, had an argument, you know. That was okay. They wrote about Ricky. I'll put blinders on, you know. And some of this stuff with Barbara and the other people, Barbara hasn't been around here for years. The other person was 2014. Maybe he had an argument with his neighbor. I have an argument with my neighbor. But when we do, we go sit down, drink a beer, and talk it over and get it done. Okay? When they brought in Gary Boosby on Gainesville Sun, whoever that reporter is, and I hope you're in this room, you went across the line. You took a person that's in the city and you slammed him, who works at the VA and was also an officer in this town. And I am really disappointed in that. Shelby, I don't know who you are, but I am really disappointed that you have taken this that far. Social media has taken it that far. I mean, this town is a great little town, and I'm going to say it again, there's sleepers here. You people don't shop at Ace, you don't shop here, you go in, you shop at Publix, you shop in town, you live in your little developments that weren't here when I came here, and you don't interact. Maybe y'all can, like, interact some more, be nice. Sometimes Ricky is Ricky, okay? I'm me. Y'all know. I'll come up here and I'll tell it like it is. Mike knows. We bust buddies now. Everybody here knows me, and I'll tell it like it is. You're a good guy. You're all great people, and I love this town. And when I was driving here, I ran into my pastor, okay? And I said, you know, God sent you right there at that moment. So when I came up here, I wouldn't go ballistic, because I can do just that.
Who's your pastor's, what's your pastor's name, Miss Debbie? I'm going to send him a thank you card.
CLF, Gary, okay? You got it. You got to send one to God, though. He really just, he does that to me. He just sends me people, you know, that's the way it is. Life is not that easy, okay? But this is just, you know, you want a speed bump. The city went through it and said no. I want Phil on my road and have want Phil on my road for 18 years, people, but I haven't got it. So one day I'll get an airboat, okay? You know, it is what it is, you know, but I wouldn't give up this little town just because things don't go my way, you know? And it's just been a little mountain into a molehill. I know the person who said Ricky would punch her teeth out. I don't think Ricky would look at a lady and say, I will punch her teeth out. You know, God, I hope you wouldn't, but I really don't think so. A lot of it is just, you know, has he been arrested? Has the police officers written you up? No. And I know, Mayor Marlowe, that you have taken charge of the situation. And you are a really great mayor, and we appreciate you. But my problem is, what happened to all the mayor pictures up there?
That's a separate topic, Miss Debbie, but they're coming back. We didn't get rid of them.
That's really all I have to say is, you
Thank
know,
you,
God
ma'am.
bless our little town. We love everybody, and, you know, pull up your big girl panties.
We love you too, Miss Debbie. Other comments? Other public comment? Going once? Going?
Yeah, like I said, I'm just so sick of the political correctness here that Tripp Norfleet.
Thank you,
and Mr. Mayor, and you know I support Rick, and I hope he doesn't want to step down or anything, because you know I think he's been a good commissioner and says what he thinks, doesn't hide his feelings, and you might like it or you don't, but at least he says what he says he's going to say. And you know, it's one of the things, while I'm making my speech here, I got to see y'all's budget up there, where y'all are doing really good on your water and your sewer.
I figured you'd have a way to weave that in.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So we got Ricky over there, and he's advocating for no increases in fee, and I see where our water and our sewer, we're making money on it. And I saw where Mr. Conrad and Mr. New had done a good job trying to get us a cheaper price on our electrical price. And but yet we want to go up 3% on the water and have water tax and go up on our electricity. I think we need to remember what it is. We're a co-op. We're not a for-profit business. And the reason people originally did this in these towns was so they could have water and sewer and electric cheaper than they could have out in the country. It was easy. It was cheaper for them to go together and co-op together. But now it's a whole lot cheaper for me to get out of town. You know, a lot of commissioners want to get out of town because it's too expensive to live in town. And you know, some of our staff wants to get out of town. I don't blame them. But you know, we need to go back why we were doing these services. It's about keeping the cost low for these people. It wasn't never about, I've heard it for years up here, well, the city's a business. No, it ain't a business. It was basically a co-op to provide these services cheaper than they could do them on their own. And so y'all need to think about that on some of these raises. And you know, it's, oh, well, we're making money. We can go up and we can get another revenue source. And you know, a lot of our deal is we got plenty of new trucks. City's got plenty of new trucks. I think they got enough. And so, I mean, but while I got y'all up here, you know what I mean? So what I'd like to see, you know, instead of us getting...
He's got 2 minutes and 57 seconds.
I got my timer right here, but while we got it here, but my deal is I support Ricky all the way, and I'd like to hear some more of the commissioners say, hey, let's hold the line on spending. You know, let's don't go up on water, sewer, and electric. Maybe let's keep it the same or let's go down. You know, I think we got 2,000. I think Jamie told me tonight we had 2,000 customers online. I imagine we probably had 150 permits in the last 12 months that'll be hooking up the water and sewer. And if you do the math, that's about a 7.5% increase right there in customers, and that kind of customers relate to revenue streams. So I'd like to see that, but I'm glad we had this discussion tonight, and I appreciate y'all bringing it up. So, but anyhow,
you got 2 more minutes, Tripp. You can keep on going now.
Yeah. Well, I am. I'm gonna use up my time right here because y'all have a hard time cutting me off, you know, and like you said, you know, everybody gets their feelings hurt. You know, I kind of feel like sometimes when we're building homes, we have homeowners we're trying to keep, and it's hard for the staff and you commissioners to keep everybody happy. And it's just sometimes you're gonna get people that's mad, take things out of context, and but you know, like I said, sometimes everybody gets their feelings hurt so bad anymore. I mean, they whine and cry about every little thing. I think they just need to toughen up a little bit and move on with their life. But thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Did you just trip, Mr. Walker?
Hello, my name is Walker Lee. I own the produce stand in Newberry. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I want to tell everyone that's here, everybody's got personal feelings. Handle your own personal feelings. Don't put it on Facebook. I mean, as far as the staff, the city attorney, the mayor, the commissioners, if you got a problem, call them. Call who they work for. Who do they work for? They work for us. You got the right to take them out of office if you do not like it. They're here. You can't impeach him. He's not Trump. So, he says what he thinks. Sometimes it's rude, sometimes it's crude. So do I. But I appreciate every one of y'all, and I've called more than every one of y'all and talked to every one of you on different occasions for different things. That's what makes a small city work. It's being able to know who you are. I don't know who the county commissioner is. You know, I have no idea. But I know who Rick is, I know who Matt is, I know who Monty is, I know who Tim is, I know who Joy is, I know who Jordan is, I know who Scott, I know Mike. And that's what makes a small city work. You know, everybody, whether I'm liberal, whether I'm conservative, it doesn't matter. Voice your opinion and be through with it. As Debbie says, pull your big boy pants up. Thank y'all. Rick, don't go anywhere.
Thank you, sir. Other public comment? Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Marty Freeman. My husband is Bill Freeman. We've been here for 14 years.
Quiet, please.
We've been
Thank
here 14 years. We love this little town to pieces. Sadly, we are one of the uneducated citizens because we did not see any of this posted before the election. We were not even aware of any of it before the election. And frankly, we were appalled and sickened to see some of the things that have been written about somebody representing us. Very disappointed. I feel that public servants are held to a higher standard. And we can't just say what we want to or just speak from the gut if we're a public servant, that we are held to a higher standard. I love you guys very much, have a tremendous amount of respect for so many of you, but I take offense at the term brotherhood for the city commission. You are not a brotherhood. You have a commission to me as my representative. And your commission to each one of us in this room and in this city is much stronger and supposed to be stronger than to one another. So that makes me feel offended as a citizen. Going forward, I feel that to get out of this mess that we're in, it would behoove the city commission to have this commissioner give a written account for each allegation, so you don't have to depend on the Gainesville Sun or Facebook, that you can see this is the allegation, and on the city website it should be there, these allegations, and this is exactly what happened. Mayor, you said that you investigated everything, and it's all in an open document. I've never seen it. I'm totally lost as to where I would find that, and I think that's a frustration with a lot of your citizens, is that we're in the dark, and what we're seeing is not acceptable at all. Sunshine law is a good thing. My husband and I both served on numerous boards, and both have been bound by sunshine laws. That's not a bad thing. Sunshine laws are very, very good things, and it does keep everything out in the open. And I know you have no power to remove this commissioner, but I think the request here tonight is that he would resign to remove some of this mess that has happened, and if not, then we do have a recourse as citizens for a recall. And I would be one, and my husband, very strongly in favor of initiating a recall if a resignation does not happen, and we'll help head it up. So I think that the standard for a public servant should be very high, and I don't see it being fulfilled. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment. Now, Ms. Jessica, are you going to the bathroom this time or to the podium? Okay. You.
So I'm Jessica Norfleet, and I just couldn't help but bring up an article that Tim wrote this week, which I think is very critical to what's going on, that voters should be informed. Our electorate should be informed and make really good informed decisions. I think, Mayor, you brought it up that he was reelected once or twice. Some of these allegations happened before that. And then secondly, on top of being an informed electorate, if anyone hasn't read Commissioner Martin's piece in the paper, I would recommend you read it because it's really good on this topic, is also to focus more on what unites us rather than divides us. And we're seeing that from the federal level all the way down, and I think that the best place for that to start is here in our local communities. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Other public comment?
Good evening. My name is Kaylee Spina. I am the wife of Mike Spina, former manager of Champions Park. I apologize for my attire today. I have been busy motivating students to be better people today. I am our new positive behavior coach at my school, so I've been trying to teach them to be better models of positive behavior, change makers, maybe be in one of your seats. I have looked up to many of you for a good part of my life here. Moved to the city of Newberry when I was in middle school and grew up here in Newberry. So I have grown up here and appreciate all of you for all the things that you do. So I have been fairly disappointed by this commission here lately for matters that many of you understand. However, without a shadow of a doubt, Commissioner Coleman, to our Spina family, has always stood by his word. We have always known where he has stood regarding us. With that said, he has chastised us and told us where we have stood wrong in the things that we have done. He has told us the things that we needed to fix and, where we needed to make those changes. But with that being said, he said, I will stand behind you. And I can tell you that a couple weeks ago when we came up here, I was terrified. My whole family was terrified. That's a scary place to be in when somebody, 5 people can take your entire livelihood away. So I want to thank Commissioner Coleman for being fair and being just, and for, I believe, justly and fairly giving scores. So I appreciate that, and thank you. And thank you to the commissioners who I do feel fairly and justly gave scores out. So, thank you for holding to your truth and your morals and your ethics. And I think, Commissioner Coleman, I think you're a great commissioner on this stand here, dais, whatever it's called. So, thank you. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. Other public comment? Do you need a laptop for this?
Yeah. It's that serious. Naeem Rachad, citizen of Newberry. Also run the Newberry, Florida Politics Forum that has no affiliation with the actual city itself. It is run by myself and a former commissioner, but no city official runs it other than. I'm here to talk about the allegations that are going on. It's a black eye to the city, of course. Any accusation is a black eye. However, I believe in looking at a solution versus the problem. And the issue that I see going on consistently is the rise of trying to get a reaction out of somebody. People ask me all the time, when am I going to run for commission? Seeing this makes me not want to run. Because you attack my family, I will say something as a human being, as a father, and as someone that is a protective member of my household. Whether it was a light threat or a full threat. whether if it was a joke or not. So a reaction would be seen from myself if a threat is given to my family. With that being said, I've lived in the cities of Miami. I grew up in the streets of Hialeah, which is not the prettiest streets. Not the toughest gang member out there will come up to you and just tell you out of random, I'm going to kick your teeth in. Something had to be provoked. Someone poked a bear. You don't just randomly say things like this. I don't. But you threaten my wife, or you threaten my son or my daughter. Teeth in is probably the least of your concerns. You want to talk about corruption? This city's not corrupt. I work hand in hand with Ricky, with Matt, with Monty, with Tim, with Joy, with you, Mayor Marlowe, with Scott, with Mike New, our city manager, Judy Rice. There's not an ounce of corruption in this place. You want to talk about corruption? Let's go back to the city of Hialeah, where they're voting right now. The commission is voting to give the mayor of Hialeah a $1,100 allowance for a Jaguar SUV. That's corruption, ladies and gentlemen. That is not our city. Our city will stand up when it's wrong and stand up when it's right. I'm not a city guy from Miami that's going to say I want to bring the city of Miami up here. I want to do the exact opposite. And what I see in the city commission, Mr. Mayor, I love this town. I live in those small houses that just got built up by the North Fleets and Sapphire builders. And I am proud to say I'm a citizen of Newberry. Do these accusations suck? Absolutely. But that's what they are, accusations. I believe that we live in a country that you're innocent until proven guilty. My family came from a country that you were guilty until proven innocent. And right now, this mob is sounding more and more like the communism that my family came from and escaped from. Someone's guilty until they're proven innocent. And I am happy that our mayor and our city is standing up to show until something is done and proven otherwise. We deal with innocence until proven guilty. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
While we're waiting for the
no,
next
come on now.
speaker, I just wanted to get some feedback about the Jaguar in this year's budget. I'm taking good notes.
No, thank you. Appreciate that.
Hi, Mayor.
Welcome.
My name's Chris Simmons, and I just want to first address the single mom issue that somebody talked to earlier. I am the single mom that had an issue with Ricky Coleman years ago. We sat down, we talked about it, we worked it out. I don't even remember what it was about anymore. But through all of that, and through, you know, my kid was little, we all played sports together. Well, we didn't play sports, but my kids played sports. And you're going to have conflict. Never one time was he ever threatening. I mean, I'm probably just not the type of person you can threaten, but, you know, that being said, I have never heard him use the type of language that he's being accused of personally, and I've had conflict with him. The other point that I want to bring up is that somebody just said they've lived here for 14 years and they're not educated. That just tells me they're not involved. We have a lot of opportunities in our city that you can volunteer. We have a lot of opportunities to become involved through our schools, through our rec department, through our Watermelon Festival. If you really want to know what's going on, it's just not an excuse to me that I just didn't know. You don't know because you don't engage and you don't learn and you don't educate yourself. It's not the city's place to put reckless allegations on the city's website. I am very opposed to that. Anybody can accuse anybody of anything. We live in a society where everybody's going to sue everybody for something. And I think your reaction this whole time has been appropriate. Anybody that wants to know, if they want that list, they can do a public record search through Miss Judy, and they can get all that information. But, you know, having personally dealt with him in a negative way, go sit down with him. Go work it out. If you need a mediator, I'm sure we can find somebody that can go to, you know, with you. But stepping down is not an option. You have the support of most everybody in this room, and being elected 3 times, you certainly have the, he certainly has the support of our city. So don't go anywhere.
Thank you, ma'am. Other public comment? Welcome.
Thank you. So much to the surprise of many in this room, my name is Shelby Powell. I'm not a girl. I thank you for having me here tonight. I am here to call for the resignation of Ricky Coleman. Let me explain how I got to stand here in front of you today. I did come to the city respectfully and through all the means provided to us, petition to have speed tables installed on my street. And I appreciate all the effort and time that everybody on this dais has committed to that effort, regardless of the outcome. Now, in my pursuit of speed tables, I did interface with everybody up here, yourself included most extensively, and you were the biggest champion for our neighborhood, Mayor Marlowe, so thank you again. When we came here at the last meeting to discuss speed tables, there felt something to be off, and I did a records request to try to ascertain what the real reason was, in my eyes, that we weren't able to accomplish this. 2 days after I received the results of that records request, while I was hanging a ceiling fan in my living room, I received a call from Commissioner Coleman. He said, "Shelby, this is Commissioner Coleman. I just wanted to call and let you know that anything you're for, I'm against." And I was quite taken aback by that. And we continued to have this conversation for a little bit. And I could tell that he was quite upset, possibly inebriated. And so I kept repeating back to him all the things that I heard him saying.
Let's keep it together, folks. Let's keep it together. We've done a great job. We've done a great
so
job
my wife
tonight.
stood there
Let's keep it
listening
together.
on the speakerphone. And we heard Commissioner Coleman threaten to kick my effing teeth in.
Look this way, please, sir.
I'm acknowledging that there are children in the room, and I want the audience to understand that I'm removing the explicatives that were littered through this phone call. Now, I'm pretty thick-skinned, and so when someone threatens to end me, I assume that they're probably just out of their mind. But given the opportunity to step back, to discuss with my wife what had just transpired, it became very clear to me that if somebody was willing to talk to me that way, they probably talked to other people that way. And so within one day, I had found 9 other people who had all experienced very similar things. Kicking teeth in seems to be a very favorite pastime of Commissioner Coleman. I don't think that's behavior fitting for any commissioner. But what's more, I began to discover other things that had never been published in any way that was accessible other than through a public records request. I learned about Timur Khan, who Commissioner Coleman called Swahili and Paki, who, when it was brought to the Director of HR's attention, in his apology, refused to even acknowledge this individual's name was Timur, instead continuing to refer to him as Omar. Omar, 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 the report says. He repeated over and over in the most vulgar way possible. Now, you might think that this is all baseless allegation, but this was witnessed by 2 other city employees, one of whom is here tonight. Your Director of Finance submitted a report corroborating these allegations, and nothing was ever done about it. If you read Deborah Starr's final memo on this issue, no further action is required after this empty apology. Speaking of empty apologies, how many empty apologies have we had? Every time there's an issue that comes before this dais, there's a forced apology and usually a retraction at some later date. I didn't want this fight. It put my family in the spotlight. My wife was not happy. My wife is a school teacher who is not confrontational. To be fair, it's put a big burden on our family. We've received threats. We've been harassed. My name has been smeared. Commissioner Coleman himself fabricated an entire story explaining why he called me. The call, which, mind you, apparently never happened in the first place. The countless lies, the countless threats, the racism, the bullying. At some point, the leaders on this dais need to stand up and denounce this type of behavior. Whether or not you have the power to do something, that's not the question. You have to act with your personal integrity and speak out against this. I implore the city to look for means to expose this type of behavior in the future. Perhaps you publish a quarterly accountability report. I don't know what that looks like. But making citizens go to public records to find this information does put a black mark on this city. This is a representation of the values of this city. How you handle this issue will define Newberry. It will define whether or not you accept racism and bullying and bigotry and homophobia, all the things that you have been well recorded saying, Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do we have any other public comment? Welcome.
Bonnie Hauser. I was not going to say anything, but I just want everyone up here to know that this issue will not define Newberry. We were here long before this issue. We will be here long after this issue. And does Ricky always say the right thing at the right time? No. Do any of us? No. Do I condone everything that was supposedly said? Absolutely not. And I can't believe it, but me and Miss Debbie Campbell are going to agree. And just put on your big girl panties these days. Sometimes it's refreshing to hear a commissioner like Ricky who doesn't know the right thing to say all the time. If someone is a slick talker, to me, I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. And I can throw as many 5-cent words out there as anybody else because I do have an education from the University of Florida. But I don't. I use ain't. I use daggum. I use y'all. Because that's me. I'm not going to change me based on what is put on Facebook. So I wasn't going to say anything, but this will not define Newberry. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Welcome, sir.
Jim Stainfield, citizen. Actually, I just heard recently that housing is selling really, really well in Newberry. And if anybody's really not happy with their house in here in Newberry or how it works here in Newberry, you can sell your house and move on.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Going once? Going twice? Hearing none, we are adjourned.